Perestroika in the USSR, introduced by Gorbachev, promised reforms and freedom. However, in Kazakhstan, it resulted in tragedy. In December 1986, thousands of Kazakh students took to Brezhnev Square in Almaty to protest the appointment of Gennady Kolbin, a Moscow official, as first secretary of the Communist Party of the Kazakh SSR. The protest was against the humiliation of national dignity. The government response was shockingly brutal. Troops were deployed, students were beaten with batons, and many were arrested. Eyewitnesses reported that between 200 and 1,000 people were killed, hundreds were injured, and thousands were arrested during a crackdown. This event became known as Желтоқсан. One of the tragic symbols of these events was student Khairat Ruskhulbekov. He was accused of murder and tortured to extract a confession. In one of his letters, he wrote, "I'm innocent. Everything was forced out of me." Under torture, the investigation was false and the trial was unfair. Later, Khairat died in prison, with authorities claiming suicide. His family and friends believe he was killed. Poet Aron Atabek wrote a poem, Al-Lajar, dedicated to these events, asking, "Do the frozen corpses still not haunt your dreams?" Kazakh intellectuals who didn't march with us. Желтоқсан was not just a protest, it marked the awakening of Kazakh's national movement, with the people starting to say, enough of taking orders from Moscow.
I'll talk about the positive results of perestroika in Kazakhstan. Between 1985 and 1991, Gorbachev's policy of glasnost, openness, allowed people to speak freely for the first time in decades. In 1989, Radio Azadtıq began broadcasting and exposed Soviet secrets, such as the nuclear test at Semipalatinsk. Newspaper like The Trust of Kazakhstan started publishing critical articles. Students at institutions organized open forums to debate environmental protest and national identity, breaking decades long silence imposed by state censorship. Perestroika also transformed the economy. In 1987, the USSR legalized cooperatives, small private businesses like cafes, repair shops, and farms. In Kazakhstan, the number of cooperatives grew from 500 in 1987 to over 5,000 by 1991. For example, the Altyn Alma cooperative in Shymkent employed 200 people and sold clothes worth 2 million rubles annually to other Soviet republics. People earned real profits and learned business skills, experience crucial for post-independence reforms. However, inflation and shortages made daily life difficult. The greatest achievement was the revival of Kazakh culture. After 60 years of bans, Nowruz Kazakh New Year was publicly celebrated in 1988. Writers like Olja Süleymanov explored Kazakh's pre-Soviet history in books such as Az I Ya. In 1989, the language law made Kazakh the official language. In 1990, Kazakhstan declared sovereignty. These steps paved the way for independence in 1991.
In the second half of the 1980s, during the perestroika period, Kazakhstan's economy started to get worse. By the 1987, there was a big shortage of food and the basic goods. People stood in long lines for bread and sugar. From 1989, many workers did not get their salaries or pension on time. Thousands of factories, especially in light and the food industries, were closed because they had no raw materials or government orders. This caused a hit in unemployment, which was unusual for the Soviet Union. After the price liberalization in 1990, prices started to grow very fast and the people's living standards went down. At the same time, the black market grew and many people started to sell goods illegally. These problems made people lose trust in the reforms and feel like the economy was a chaos.
Perestroika was a very important time for Kazakhstan. It changed the Soviet Union and helped their country move toward independence. People started thinking more about their language, culture and rights. The government became weaker, and that gave Kazakhstan a chance to find its own way. From that time, Kazakhstan got both good and bad things. The good, we saw the first steps toward a free economy, more open speech, and stronger national identity. The bad, there were economic problems, closed factories, people lost their jobs, and many felt lost, scared. But we learned something important. Reforms must be planned. During perestroika, changes happened too fast and without clear goals. Kazakhstan later tried to avoid those mistakes and made slower, smarter reforms. Compared to that era, today Kazakhstan is more stable. The country has a functioning market economy, a growing private sector, and elements of democracy. Regular elections are held, and private businesses now contribute over 60% of the national GDP. While challenges remain, the progress made since perestroika is clear. So perestroika was a hard and confusing time. It helped Kazakhstan take its first steps toward freedom. It was not an easy period, but it was a very important one, the beginning of our path to independence.